So as we go through this, if you have any questions that come up, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and then we have some question panel later, so we'll be able to answer your questions. So before we jump into see Sarah, who's one of the co-creators of this course, we're going to have a quick look at Genoa and GEN. So GEN is the Global Eco-Village Network, and it was brought together by people and groups all over the world who want to live and want to create a different world to the one that we currently live in. So we have a short video to show you a little bit about GEN and a little bit about some of the issues that we're facing in the world today. So Ken, if you'd like to play the video. And everyone, we invite you to share in the chat any issues that are affecting you in your local area where you are, so we can get a sense of what the things are we care about and what we're concerned about. Thank you, Ken.
Welcome to the Global Eco-Village Network. My name is Kosha Jaber, and I'm so happy that you're taking a moment to watch this and get to know us. It's a special time we're living in, and we're all aware that we completely need to transform our human presence together. As climate change is hitting faster and harder, still 24,000 people a day are dying from hunger. Most of these children. We have around 200 species a day of insects, plants, mammals disappearing from the planet forever. So with our dedication to preserving life for future generations, it needs us now. It needs us not only to understand our dream, our wish to be part of the solution, but actually to act upon this. And eco-villages can be a great inspiration. Eco-villages are communities designed in participatory ways to integrate the social, cultural, ecological, and economic dimensions of sustainability into a whole systems design for regenerative futures. We currently reach out through 5 big regional organizations: Genoa in Oceania and Asia, GENA in North America, CASA in Latin America, GEN Europe in the European part, and GEN Africa in Africa, to around 10,000 communities in more than 114 countries. 5,750 of these are already enrolled in our online database. GEN also has a very vibrant youth network, NextGen, reaching out to those that matter most for our future.
Thank you, Ken. And we're going to hear now from Sarah Benson, who's one of the co-founders of REGEN-Nations, the course, to tell us a little bit about where REGEN-Nations came from and why this course was created. So we'll hand over to Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. It's really an honor to be here, and apologies, I'm recording this out of time because I'm not sure if I'll wake up really early. I'm in the UK at the moment and have been here since the COP26 in Glasgow, and with flight changes and also typhoons that hit my country, I'm still not able to go home due to the power and water shortages. But I'm really grateful that the REGEN-Nations team this year has invited me to share about the vision behind it, why we put it together, and why is it different from other courses. And yeah, and I'm happy to try my best to do it, and I'm really trusting the rest of the team are actually able to share, their own personal experience and their vision. So I'm really grateful to be one of the people to invite you and welcome you to this taster course. And so again, I'm Sarah Kabletin. They probably introduced me, but just a little bit about myself and how I joined this movement. I used to work in art therapy and psychosocial support, and I was able to assist one typhoon related flooding experience in the Philippines in 2011, and I felt there was something missing in the interventions, and I was also looking from a deeper questions about why do these crises happen, and what solutions can we offer without the same factors that caused them in the first place. Prior to that, in 2009, I also started my own organization called Green Relief. Back then, it was just a volunteer organization, and we 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 try to understand, like, how can we respond to relief efforts without the same plastics or as the factors that cause the climate emergency in the first place. So more pollution causing um, problems. And so my own inquiry has been, how do we change the narrative of the way we change? How do we address a broken system without the same broken solutions? And it invited me to look into the eco-village movement, the regenerative movement, the permaculture movement, all of them, the transition town movement, they're all like within the banner of the regenerative approach, which for me has been like steps ahead of the NGO movements or institutions that are trying to create change, because the beauty of it is that you actually live the experience. You're actually changing from and applying it with your lifestyle. You're not just planning and doing and working on a project and aiming for, log frame deliverables and targets, but you're actually living it. For me, that really excited me. Of course, I moved to an eco village in the Philippines, and I also I moved out because I inherited land, and I'm still trying to study if I should work on this land. But in the end, it also led me to work with communities that are in transition after disasters and displacement, and how can we rebuild and create new systems in the process. And that led me to really continue representing Jen and the region in the climate talks, to also support and how we can scale, the best practices of what we're already doing in the region. There's so many best practices, and this is also why we thought, how can we invite the wisdom of those already doing this work in the region from the Asia Pacific, and really integrate that in the curriculum of the Eco-Village Design education course that the Global Eco-Village Network and Gaia Education has been developing and delivering over the years. And so, so it's been a privilege and honor to develop this with Genoa, and also with our co-creators, Trudy Jurians and Kin and Hemawu last year. And it's been a really good run that we prototyped it. And it's really nice that this year we could scale it again and invite a new cohort to join us under the leadership of an amazing new team as well. And you'll meet them today. So I'm really grateful to journey with you. And I'm gonna share my screen just to introduce a little bit of some of, us, why we're doing this. And so REGEN-Nations, where the word region is like regenerative, and then nations is like, we also, instead of countries, we recognize nations as like depends on how people define nations. And also it also sometimes is being used by indigenous groups, and it also gives a little bit of autonomy in some way. Our hope is to, bring together change makers to design together and learn from each other in the next 6 months. And I shared with you my experiences mainly in disasters that invited me to look into a holistic experience. Having worked in disaster zones, it made me wonder, how can we respond in such a way that the response that we're doing is not also part of the reason why the climate crisis is happening. So, and how do we respond to the broken systems without the broken solutions? But how can we have a holistic which is the opposite of broken, something whole, to respond to it with. And the answer that I was led to is a holistic approach. And how is that approach delivered? It's through a holistic design process. So this is where we are using regenerative design in our work. But what is regenerative? So many of us in the movement are looking at the need to shift from sustainable to regenerative. And when over time, when we think about sustainability, it has shown us that, we've used it to justify, like, as long as we meet this minimum, we can consume at certain, as much as we can. And it has become like also like a lot of greenwashing, and it has also been a way to just replace things but without really completely changing the system that caused a problem in the first place. So just case in point, for example, we've grown into biodegradable, shampoo, but we've created biodegradable shampoo products, but we've actually, just replaced the bottle or the use of the biodegradable product, but the whole system of, like, the economic model of it, or how it didn't change consumption behavior, but it still encouraged us to buy and buy. It's something to think about, like, how far can we go to really change the system? Are we just replacing it, like plastic bags with eco bags, but then we still produce a lot of eco bags? So it doesn't really change the system, because we still produce water, use water, and use dyes or anything to create the eco bags. So it's something to think about. And so when we say regenerative, it's really the whole system as already being used. In sustainable, we're neutral, we're using parts of the system. So whatever is just needed or relevant or at the minimum of something. Another diagram by Bill Reed of the REGEN-Nations Institute is the progression, from neutral to, it's less 100% less bad, into the evolution into being part, to assist the system, to be part of nature. But then we realize we are actually nature, and we go into that deeper place of our relationship with nature. And so whatever we do to nature actually affects us. And so that's from that deeper awareness, we design in ways that actually make sure that whatever we do is no longer the same way, and it goes beyond what we can see from this generation. It goes beyond from many generations. And it also invites us to look into what's already with nature, which requires less energy. It's also ways that are already working with available knowledge, available resources. And this way, we actually don't need to consume more to reduce more. I don't know if that makes sense. Where, like I shared with the analogy of the plastics, why not just not have plastic packaging in the first place, or use packed plastics in the first place, instead of just replacing the plastic with something else. So it goes beyond what is just neutral. So I hope that's a bit clear, but as we go through the course, we will give more clarity to these definitions. Another movement is the growing movement of regenerative business models. So when we say, sustainability, it's really just reducing carbon footprint. But when you say this regenerative business, it's really not just carbon, it's going beyond that when looking at health and people and places in the planet. So this is, for me, was a really nice graphic by Navi Raju. And so I don't know if that anchors deeper on what a regenerative approach means. So right now we are in this, post-apocalyptic scenario, or at least we have the choice to whether that scenario goes through, continues, a burning world, a flooding world, conflicting world, a world that's full of conflict, or a world that can be a thriving way of life. So we are in this crossroad. We are in this poignant, important time where we can make this choice. We have the tools, we have the learnings. How can we apply them and create a more thriving future for all of us and the generations to come? So REGEN-Nations, we wanted to honor that there are already existing wisdom and knowledge in the region, that it's not about a future that we still a new, it's not something new, it's actually a new but old story. And for us, we were really inspired to design this lab and journey where we truly honor like the wisdom traditions of Asia. So like last year we had someone from New Zealand, a Maori elder, to share with us what is a donut economic model from the Maori worldview. And we know the donut economic model is really, becoming a trend now. It's becoming important now. But we also want to bring back like what is the original donut and original circular economic model, and how can we be inspired to also look into our indigenous worldview that has been the inspiration of many circular models. And I'm also inspired that, like we had an eco-village in China shares about how they apply Confucian values in the community living, and how, without even saying it's Confucian teachings or about Taoism, but just the way they applied it based on their relationship with nature, and in ways that honor, bring about harmony and balance. And then learning about how come a lot of mindful markets and enterprises have sprung up in Thailand and Vietnam, and maybe it's about the Buddhist culture and how they have influenced these mindfulness in the economic models that they're doing with in application to agriculture and social enterprises. So this is just an example and just a core of the spirit of why we brought it together. Of course, we also want to acknowledge that many nations in Asian Pacific have been colonized. So we also want in some way to decolonize in ways that are not to kind of go against the mainstream regeneration, but also to just invite in that there and acknowledge that there's been already original knowledge and regeneration, that it's already embedded in our culture and our worldview. It's already in application by many of the practices in the region. And so we want to highlight that through the speakers and the mentors who are part of this journey.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kim. So we want to share a little bit with you about the course content, and Sarah touched on there a little bit about regeneration and the approach to regeneration within whole systems design, as the REGEN-Nations and Global Eco-Village Network see it, is there's 5 dimensions. There's not just one dimension or 2 dimensions. We often hear about ecology, it's heavily focused on, and we know our world is very heavily driven by economy. But we take all 5 dimensions, which are the social aspects as well, the culture, and then we bring the social, the cultural, the ecological, and the economical together, and we put them together, and then we consider them individual systems, but they're all interlinked as part of one system. And this is what we call whole systems. And by working through each one of these lenses, we look at the projects and we look at the world and the systems connected to the projects where we work. And we consider this. And as soon as you start to look out, you'll find that there's a different way to see the project. There's a different angle that we need to consider. There's something else we need to design for. And by taking our projects through each one of these dimensions, it helps us to create a more resilient design that is able to withstand pressures and able to adapt and able to have the stronger foundation. I think we're all familiar with the focus on economy. And if we design a product or a system or a place based on money, we kind of end up where we're now, where we're valuing money above any sort of natural resources. We're valuing money above even human resources and people. So this is a great example of a single focus design system. And one of the tools we use in the 5 areas of regeneration is we have a set of cards called the Eco Village Design cards. And they are each for each one of the 5 dimensions, and there's 6 topics within each one of the cards. So in the chat, we're going to share the link. And we invite you all to go to this link and pick a card. There you go. Thank you, Ken. And the cards each have a aspect. For example, in the cultural section, there are 6 topics around different aspects of cultural design, different aspects of cultural systems. So if you go to the card picker, I'll share my screen and go to the card picker if my internet will let me. And as soon as you've picked a card, please share the card in the chat, and then share also what pops into your mind when you see this card. What does it mean to you? The cards can be a great way of zooming in on a topic, because, you know, regeneration and saving the planet is a very big topic. But if we break it down into these 5 dimensions, and then we break it down further into the 6 topics, it becomes more accessible to us. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to open the card picker and show you.
Now I can also share screen.
Yeah, can you please?
Okay. So if everyone, if you click on the card picker in the chat, the card link.
So Kin's got increased biodiversity and restore ecosystems. So this is one of the guiding principles in the ecology dimension. So we invite you all to have a go at that, and then share in the chat. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to bring up a little, sorry, can you share the slide with the 5 dimensions on, and then the learning journey, please? Thank you. So yeah, here you can see we have the social, the cultural, the ecological, and the economy. And then in the center, these all support whole systems design. And can you go to the next slide, please, Kim? So that's a little bit about the actual content. Obviously, there's a lot of amazing speakers and a lot of topics, and you can find out a bit more about that on our website and on the course site. And I'm just going to take you through a little bit around how the program works. So rather than what we actually share with you, it's how we're going to share it. So this program is different from other online learning programs in that it's project-based. So this means it's hands-on. You have an idea, or you have a project possibly that you're working on now. You bring it with you, and you can take that project through each of the exercises and each of the dimensions. So instead of being a theory-based or thinking about something abstractly, you can really zoom into an actual idea. Say it could be an issue noticed in your town. It could be the plastic pool of ocean in the giant plastic field of ocean in the middle of the Pacific. You can pick anything you like, but it's a really great way of understanding the thinking practices and the exercises throughout the course, and really learning those skills and getting to use them. So that's the first point. It's project-based. And for the participants from the last cohort, we all brought a real life project and we developed it as we went through the course. And it was such an impactful experience. We'll be hearing from some of the team and some of the previous projects in a little while. So the next thing in our program is we have individual support. So everybody and every project that joins the project for the whole course will have a facilitator that will help them through each dimension. So in each dimension, there's going to be action learnings. So say we learn about, for example, we're going to learn about sociocracy and different ways of organizing other than the traditional kind of boss at the top and then everyone else underneath. So we go through some alternative ideas of how you could organize anything, but in this case, your project. And at the end of that section, there's some action learning for you to go through. And we ask you to upload your learnings, and then your facilitator will actually give you individual feedback on your work. So this is to help. This is no right and wrong answer. This is to help guide you, to give you suggestions, share resources, and just generally help you understand where you are and maybe broaden that a bit more. We also have coaching from one of our experts. So we have lots of amazing, very experienced practitioners who teach and speak and join the course to share their wisdom. And during the course, you have 2 hours of coaching, one-on-one with one of our mentors. This is really valuable. I can't explain how valuable it is, because a lot of these people you probably would not bump into in your everyday life. So to have access to these people and to have their undivided attention to support you on your projects and to actually look into the detail of whatever you want support on is super, super valuable. Another aspect of this course, we're going to have a community space. That's what that green one at the bottom says. It's a little bit cut off. So we're creating a community space for the REGEN-Nations projects and for the facilitators and the speakers and anyone who's doing part of the course. So here you'll be able to see where the projects are located. You'll see on the map in front of us, the little yellow dots are either projects or their speakers from REGEN-Nations in 2020. So you can see where people are, you can see people in your local area, and you can connect with them to share resources, or you can go and help them, or you can just speak to them and support each other. We found the community and also having the support of other people, knowing other people are working on solutions the same as you are. There's millions of us out there, but having access to those projects and updates is really inspiring. And then our learning journey, as I said, takes us through the 4 dimensions. And at the end, we create a presentation of your project, or rather you will create a presentation of your project. And this is going to serve as a kind of a summary, but also it could be a way of sharing your project with people. So for example, if you're looking to start a project, at the end of this course, you'll have a little presentation where you can actually confidently present your project and let everyone know what it's about. Thank you, Ken. So now we're going to meet the team and learn a little bit about the past participants. And I say that in one sentence because all of the team are past participants or they're past facilitators from the REGEN-Nations in 2020. We all joined this project because we believe in it so much and we were all touched by it and impacted by it so much. So I'd like to invite Kin to share something about herself and also about some of the participants. Thanks, Kin.
Thank you, Natalie, and hi again, everyone. So I'm Kin, and calling from Vietnam, and I was a part of the REGEN-Nation team last year as a core team, accompanied Sarah and Trudy to create this course. And just to share with you a little bit, last year we have 16 teams from 11 countries that joined REGEN-Nation, and the teams really varied really widely geographically, and I can show you in a bit. my share screen. So we have, since there are teams, so there are different numbers of members in each team. Some teams has 2, 3, or 5 members. In total, we have about 49 members. And at the end of REGEN-Nations last year, it was also a 6-month learning journey. There was 10 regenerative projects incubated, and it varied really wide in different topics around regeneration. So there are projects on permaculture, there were community gardening in Singapore, there are regenerative agriculture, community education, health and well-being, peace building, and also social enterprise. And here's a few photos that we received from the projects that were developed during the course last year. And a bit later, I would love to invite some members of the team and the cohort last year to share in person with you about their project and how their experience was with REGEN-Nations last year was like. Yeah, so I know that in here we have Hugh, Eve, Vivian, who were part, and Hima, who were part of REGEN-Nations last year. And actually, Natalie, Vivian, and Hugh have become the core member of this year. So we are really grateful to have them with us. And maybe I would love to hear from either one of you, Vivian, Eve, Hio, if you wanna just open your mic and share a little bit about your experience with REGEN-Nations and about the project that you're working on.
Hi, I can share a thing or two. Hello, my name is Hio and I'm calling from Vietnam. I joined REGEN-Nations last year as a participant, and I am very lucky to be part of the organizing team this year, like Kim said. I think what I got the most from REGEN-Nations is the community itself, peer learning, connecting with other projects, other teams across the region, really deepened my perspectives on the issue or the problem that I'm working in my home country, but looking from a broader perspective. And for example, last year I and my team were working on health and well-being, teaching mindfulness tools and practices to patients of cancer, people with cancer. And I got to hear feedback from other groups and other teams, how they would apply mindfulness practices to other more vulnerable groups in their home country, and how I or our team could have improved our program. So it's a rare opportunity to have that cross sector sort of collaboration. So I think that's one of the reasons why I commit to this year, as I'm playing sort of like a supporting role to help foster the community side of things for REGEN-Nations. So I will be facilitating, for example, community sessions for teams and projects, because I would love for you guys to get the same benefit from the community of REGEN-Nations as I did last year. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hio. And so your projects last year was super interesting. And I also have one thing to confess. I think last year in the pilot program, we didn't do as good as we can in the side of like nurturing an interactive community among different teams and participants. And this year with Hio's support, we really are determined to build a good ecosystems around participants and project teams so that we can support each other, not just to cross-learn, to cross-pollinate what we learn, but also to support each other to grow our network and grow our project stronger. And I would love to also invite Eve, who I think last year Eve was our youngest participant, and to introduce about her really amazing project Perma Youth and her experience as well.
Thank you, Kim. So my name's Eve, and I'm a co-founder of an organization called Perma Youth, and I did the REGEN-Nations program last year with the founder, Maya Raymond. And Perma Youth is a youth-led community that has come together to make a real positive difference in the world. We only started as a small group of friends, but we quickly became an international circle of youth from five different continents. And we work with youth and people in Africa and refugee camps and helping them, teaching them permaculture so that they can feed their families. And we really want to create a regenerative, teaching youth how to be regenerative so that we can, because we are the future. So, and the REGEN-Nations program really helped me, and it gave me the tools, insights and methods to create the change I wanted to within Perma Youth in the most effective way possible. And the overarching principle for undertaking it is the purposeful bringing together of generations to promote greater understanding and, I guess, respect in the element of building more cohesive communities. So, and I believe that intergenerational learning is really important, and REGEN-Nations and also the Gen community has really promoted that in an amazing way. And in the course, you not only learn about like design solutions for all the different dimensions that Na and Kin have talked to you about today, but it also shows you how to care about people as well, because when we need to work together, we need to come together as one, and to do that we need to care about not only the earth but also people as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Eve. And Eve is also a very inspiring slam poet. So I hope that everyone would have a chance to listen to her poems. It's also online on YouTube. Maybe Eve, you can share the link in the chat later sometimes. So just not just follow Perma Youth, which is a very amazing youth organization. Also follow Eve. I think what Eve has just mentioned at the end is super important, because generally when people think about eco-village or about regeneration, they immediately think of saving the environment, biodiversity, ecology. But we often forgot that, well, we couldn't have a healthy environment if we neglect other aspects like the social dimension, how we communicate, how we work with each other, the cultural dimension, how we see the world, how we see our relationship with the world around us, and we see us in the relationship with others. And also the very important economic section, how we can keep our health and wealth and well-being, why not deteriorating the environment as well. So how to have like sustainable and regenerative livelihoods. So these are all integrated into the design of the map of regeneration that it's a base of our course. Which you also have seen a sneak peek with the card picker game earlier. And I've seen in the chat that a lot of us have picked some cards, and you can see that some of us receive the same cards, some receive different cards, but those are just really like a teaser of the different dimensions, because in each of the dimension you will find many different principles of regeneration. And I would love to invite one last member, Vivian, who was also in the cohort last year, and it's now our team member developing REGEN-Nation this year with us, to share a bit more about the project that she and her teammates are doing in Singapore.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. My name is Vivian, and I also just want to iterate how community is so important, and definitely the culture and the social dimension, which I find really, really helpful in terms of communication. The project that I am involved in Singapore it's actually working out of a community garden. So Singapore, some of you might know, it's a really small country, and we don't really have land spaces. A lot of it is state-owned, and but in every neighborhood there's community gardens, and that's really where we're trying to build more capacity, both in terms of knowledge, skill sets, as well as just awareness, because I have another project that's working on soil regeneration, and it's something that when I talk to people in Singapore, in an urban city, it's like, where do you do soil regeneration in Singapore, But working out of a community garden and trying to bring this kind of awareness to the residents in the neighborhood, even though it's small scale, I think that's also something that would turn the eye to larger global issues coming to the folks who I'm speaking specifically in Singapore, who live in an urban center where it's pretty much a concrete jungle. Yeah. So the project that I was working on is prototyping like a potential CSA model, community supported agriculture, in the small scale of the community garden, but in the hopes that when we collect some data, we will be able to bring that forward to the different stakeholders, of course, working with government agencies to maybe get a bigger piece of land and to grow food through regenerative practices rather other than what the government in Singapore is really promoting now, which is a lot of high-tech indoors kind of farming. So the course has been really, really helpful because there's so many aspects to working on different projects, and to bring in the multi-dimension part, it's really holistic and really, really important. And I really appreciated also like the different frameworks that can be used, that there's learned, applied to this project, but also in discussion with the other teams from other countries working on different projects. It's really fascinating, and I think very inspiring just to see how a simple framework can really support different types of projects. So I feel that personally, I also work on a more ecosystem networking level. I'm not just tied to one project. So learning these skill sets, it's just really beneficial for me in terms of how I can think about different projects that I might be getting involved with in the future as well. Yeah, so that's my share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivian. And so that's, you have heard a bit more about some of the projects that were incubated and or advanced last year. So some people joined REGEN-Nations last year with a project that were already ongoing, and the course helped them to take a more holistic look at what they're already doing and see where there can be some improvements, or where the project can take a different approach. Or some people come in the project with come in the course with one project and come out with another project. That's also possible, because you redefine, re-identifying your role in the ecosystem around you, and that's really important, because it's really asks you the question to take a second look about what you're doing, what you are capable of, and how to really contribute to the nature and social ecosystems around you. So so thank you a lot, Eve, Hugh, and Vivian, for your sharing. And I think that would be a very quick sneak peek of the project last year that I would love to share with you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll come to it very shortly. And now I would love to invite Vivian to share with you some more information and also a survey that we have prepared.
Sorry. Thanks, Kim. We have prepared a survey form, and the intention of this form is also to to get some feedback from people who are interested in programs like this. And we understand that sometimes it may not be accessible to everyone, and that also sometimes it's accessible and in different ways. So we're just wondering if you could help us take a look at the survey form and let us know what might be interesting for you to participate in a course like this, what would be supportive for you, and also what are the other resources that you might need, or if you're coming from a place where you can contribute, that would also be great if you want to just let us know that. Yeah. So we would like to actually have the survey form filled out before the end of this call. So we're just sharing it now. But I think we can also proceed to the next segment, which is question and answer. If you have any questions, you can also ask them in the chat group. And also I see that maybe some people have to leave before we go into Q&A. We do want to ask you also to help us reach out to people in your network to share with them the REGEN-Nation program. We have a lot of materials on that we're sharing on Facebook and Instagram. If you're on these platforms, if you can help to share them, that would be really great. And also, if you are in a position to sponsor any participants, offer scholarship, do also let us know, because a lot of we know a lot of people who are interested in the Asia Pacific region, but it may not be financially accessible to them to take on the full course. So that's also one way in which, if you know anybody who might be interested to donate or contribute to scholarship, please also help us get in touch with them as well. And of course, if you're interested to join, please do sign up. And if you're not signing up, let us know why and what we can help to help you make that decision. Yeah, thank you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put into the chat, or yeah. And I'll hand over to Na to facilitate this part.
Thank you, Vivian. Sorry if you hear some strange noises. There's some activity in the building I'm in going on. I hope you can still hear me. So wave at me if you can't hear me. So yeah, does anyone have any questions about the content or the course or anything else at all? If not, I can share a little bit more about how the course works and what the options are to join. So if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand, your little yellow Zoom hand, or you can pop it in the chat, or you can put your video on and wave at me. So as we mentioned, we have the 5 dimensions, and this time we've actually made it possible to join just one dimension. So for example, if you studied gardening and you know all about plants and you are great with all the ecology stuff, but you want to dive deeper into maybe the social and cultural aspects, you can just join the social dimension or the cultural dimension or both. And this has come out of a need that we recognize that people have different knowledge bases, different skills. And also some people are brand new to regeneration and to design, and some people have a lot of experience. So again, we're trying to make this as available as we can to as many different types of people and different stages of their life and projects as well. Another thing that we encourage is if you have a project that's already started, you can join as a team. And if you want to ask about how to join as a team, you can contact us, our email address, or you can contact us on Facebook or Instagram. Does anyone have any questions? Is anyone here? I know I recognize some of the names that have asked questions directly. Did you want to share anything now? Yes, Martin.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something, having been part of the original curriculum team. We worked very hard on the 4 dimensions. And I've mentioned this before, at some stage in Gaia Education's history, culture, worldview was changed to culture. Okay, and initially we had this concept of worldview. Why did we call it worldview? Because the world is a little bit uncomfortable with the concept of spirituality. But underneath, the underlying principle of all of this has to do with spirituality. And somehow I think this is a really important element to bring in with all the different keys, if you like, huh? Because in fact, all these keys, yes, we can teach them separately. And I see your point that sometimes people need a bit of an economic boost and others know a lot about ecology, but want to know more about how to develop a strong social community. But at the same time, remember, all of these keys come together synchronistically together, okay? So if you're teaching, for instance, economics, there has to be somewhere in there, some links into spirituality, environment, social, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? And that somehow gets implanted. And that also that we understand really what spirituality is all about. Sarah and I were both up in Glasgow for the COP26. And we were out at a castle in the countryside that a duke had lent to people, to the indigenous movements. And there was a yew tree that was 1,000 years old. And we went out and we did a celebration of several hours of prayers around that yew tree. People of very different spiritual backgrounds, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Druids, you know, and it was just such a strong moment that brought us unity. And it became the why, if you like. And I don't know if you've seen the Matrix, the fourth Matrix has just come out, and it's called Resurrection. But when I was reviewing the other three, one of the things that the Oracle says all the time is it's not the what that counts. It's understanding the why. Because if you don't have that why in place, the what will not have the power. And somehow our why is all about the spirit and the ancestors and the wisdom that we once had, and remembering that and regenerating that. Beyond that, I don't have too much to say. I'm very impressed. You're doing wonderful, wonderful work. And you've taken this so far beyond what we all imagined. And I love it. It's great. Continue.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, spirituality is one of those words that you're either very comfortable with or you're not comfortable with, and then people kind of shrink away a little bit. So, but it is a big part of the culture for sure.
It is the culture. It's the basis of the cultural key. That's something important to understand. And one of the reasons that culture was introduced was I think, because of fundraising and because it was hard to sell the program into different into different contexts. But we shouldn't be afraid to talk about spirit and spirituality in everything we do, especially all of us in Asia, because we have such strong foundations of it in our cultures.
Yeah, I totally agree. And is this connection to nature actually one of our speakers? It's the main topic, the connection to nature is foundational, whether you call it spirituality, whether you just call it like nature, you can call it a million different things, it's whatever works for you. Okay, so let me just check where we are.
Natalie, this is a question that was sent into the interest form. So it was not in the chat, but I also would like to drop it here in case some other people in the room might also have the same question. So I think two questions that we received the most. Number one, it's how do I know if this course is right for me? And number two, it's would there be any financial support on the course fee? So maybe we can also share a little bit more on both those 2 points.
So I invite the rest of the REGEN-Nations team as well. If you want to chip in, just wave at us. So is this course right for you? I think you will be the best person to answer that, but hopefully with what we've shared today and what the aspirations of the team are, because these designs and the dimensions and the worldview and all of this way, it's an approach to life, actually. It's not something you learn and then you put it in a box and you apply it to just this project. When I started learning all the different types of holistic design systems, it's really hard to unlearn them. And as soon as you learn them, it kind of changes how you look at the world. So now everything I look at in the world, it kind of explodes out in mental webs to other things. Everything is connected for me. Everything is connected to something else. And Marty touched on as well, you know, for me, economy, everything in economy comes from our planet. So it's intimately linked with absolutely everything, but as is everything. But I think, you know, it's a step into change in how you look at things, and then recognizing patterns and being able to see the touch points on those patterns that you can touch. And the climate crisis and regeneration, you know, it's a really big topic. It's a really big job. But as I say to a lot of the students I work with, you pick the thing, you know, if this is where you are. So Vivian's in Singapore and she has access to a community garden. She's looked at what resources are around her. She's identified there's a gap here. I can do something. I know something and I can try it and I can show other people and I can share and I can start to build something. And that's what she's doing. You know, she's not able to be in the middle of the ocean, or she's not able to be in the Arctic. She's chosen the thing that she has access to locally. And I think that's the best place for most of us to start. Start with yourself. One thing that, again, it comes back to culture and worldview. You see a lot of people maybe, you know, discussing these big ideas and talking about what the world should do. But I personally think that we have to start with ourselves, with our own beliefs and with what we can do ourselves, instead of me telling everybody else what to do. I'm just going to do what I do. And it ripples out, you know, you change your mind, you change the way you see the world, you change the way you are in the world. And that's the change. That's the only change that we can make as individuals. Unless you're a dictator, that's the only change you can force upon the world, is what you do yourself. So it's very much, is it part of your personal path? Is it part of your growth? I think only you can answer that, although I'd probably say yes to everybody, because if you're interested in regenerating the world, then it's a really great way of expanding your ability to see opportunity and to recognize what you can do, you know, and I wouldn't say it's like a course in optimism, probably not the right words, but it's a way of taking something and turning it into something else. It's a transformation process, both for yourself and for the thing you're working on. Does anyone else in the Regen team want to share something about whether this course is right for them? How did we decide it was right for us?
Thanks, Na. I think you put it really well, because sometimes, you know, in receiving all the news and trying to figure out where do we fit in the puzzle to create a different world, right? A different way of living. And it can be very daunting and intimidating. And that's also why I said that, you know, that's really one of the big reason why I wanted to join REGEN-Nations, because I know that I will be able to connect with folks in the region, not just in Singapore. I'm, you know, quite connected to the folks in Singapore, but in the region also to be inspired and to learn, and to really, the perspectives is just really inspiring. And I feel that you know, I am, as I mentioned earlier, I work more on ecosystem networking level across different projects in Singapore. And the CSA Community Garden project that we were doing alongside the training of REGEN-Nation, it's not the only project that I'm involved in, but that's the project that I felt that the younger team members there can also benefit from the program. And that's why I, you know, invited them to do this program as well. But I feel that even if I didn't have a project, I think that's the thing, right? I think the pilot program, that was one of the requirements. But now we also realize that after further discussion, there are people who are also seeking different inspirations, different ways, but may not already have a project. And I feel that learning these frameworks actually is really helpful, because as Na said, then there is a way to start to make sense of a lot of the information that's coming, or like the desire to do something but don't really know where to start. So I personally feel that that's also really helpful, even if you don't already have a project to work on. And I'm seeing the question popped in by Kira in Australia, and there is a Genoa Australia, so you might want to get connected with them as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Vivian. Kira, would it be a better idea? Yeah, I think you're the only one that can answer that question, but the education will help you no matter when you do it. It's a doorway. It's a doorway to step into, to see, as I said, to see more opportunities where maybe before you didn't see them. With regards to, is there any financial assistance on the course fee? We want to offer scholarships. At the moment, we're still fundraising for our scholarship fund. So we have links on our pages to share. If you can share those in your networks, that would help us greatly. Also, another option is if you have a project team and you want to come with more than one person, we can offer a discount for that. So as I said, you can contact us for that. So if you have a project team of like 10 of you, you all want to come, then we can absolutely accommodate that. And another option is that if you want to join the course and you don't have maybe all of the money, then you can contact us to see what we can help you with, or you could fundraise or seek sponsorship, as Vivian said, from a local company or an international company, or we've got a lot of ideas. We're a little bit ahead of time, so just want to check in with everybody. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask live? Or you can put it in the chat if you're shy. Yeah, Marty?
Yeah, I have a couple more comments. One that's coming up a lot in our elders and next gen meetings, because we're doing a kind of conversation between people who have lived in communities and people who want to live in communities. And one of the big ones amongst youth is, if I live in community, can I still have a proper income, a meaningful livelihood and a proper income, so I can travel, so I can do things, experience life in ways that I might not be able to otherwise. Without getting into a conventional system. So that's always a consideration we need to think about. And last week I was on a Zoom call where we're trying to develop a marketing strategy for Gaia education, because there are fund shortages. And one of the things that came up for me was that when you're going out for fundraising, sometimes what is really interesting to say is to talk about somebody's personal experience, to say, my name is George, I did an EDE program in Oroville, India, and today I'm an environmental architect. I always wanted to do architectural work, but today I'm an environmental architect because I did this course, right? Or someone else who can say, today I'm a social planner in my community in London, and it was the EDE course that gave me the confidence, the knowledge, or the impetus to move ahead, and to be able to do this. So it's partially I think we need to be able to say, hey, it isn't just learning for learning's sake, which is beautiful. And obviously, whatever you learn in life serves you, even in sometimes when you don't think it will. I remember as a kid, I learned how to calculate the probability of a royal flush in poker, right? Which is about 1 in every 57,000. I thought, I'll never use this. Well, I use probability all the time, all the time. And everything we learn has value. But to actually be able to say these courses we'll connect you so that you're comfortable in all the worlds, in our communities, but also in the worlds out there that we want to bring into our lifestyle and our way of being. So that can be a really very simple, but a very good marketing strategy to both for people who are saying, why should I do this course, or what can it bring me, but also for fundraising, especially fundraising amongst organizations where they're going to say, who was transformed by this and how? Just some ideas.
Thank you, Marty. So Kian has shared in the chat some links to our course platform where you can learn a bit more about the content of the course and the access. Also our fundraising campaign on Indiegogo. And we have a whole list of frequently asked questions as well. So if you have any questions, then check that list. There's a lot of information on that. And lastly, the survey link from Vivian.
I would just love to add one more thing. It's a personal experience that I had, but maybe it can also share some resonance with others who are thinking of taking the course, because I took the course, the EDE course in Eco-Village Design Education, which REGEN-Nations was based on in 2016. And at that point, I was at this point where I was really start asking a lot of questions about what I was doing. I was working in education at the time. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm making a real impact. I'm not even sure what's a real impact it's like. And am I doing what really, like making a difference? Or am I creating more consequences from what I was doing at that point? So I was really confused about what I was doing. I really need some support in like systematically put what's in my head and in my experience together. So when I took the EDE, I really appreciate the framework and the holistic approach that it gave, and also the time for me to really like weeks by weeks, sit down, look into a problem and apply some practices and assignments so that I can break down all of the questions that I have and learn from others as well. And that's really was the point of the beginning of my journey with the Eco-Village Network. And I didn't have a project at that time as well. I think a lot of projects that come later, but still I had the experience of the EDE to support me with. And well, the EDE I took at the time was not really project based, but with REGEN-Nations, also a different approach is that we can really support projects to incubate, to form, to start, and then to develop something really concrete at the end of the program if you want. Of course, you don't have to. There's no have to in REGEN-Nations. So if that's something that's in your intention to develop your project into something more than that, then yes. But that's not a requirement to to participate. It's really not. And I think, well, just like me at that time, I think if you are just starting to ask questions and you need communities, you need a framework, you need people to talk to, just simple as that, REGEN-Nations can be a great space, community for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to add that another thing that I really appreciate is also, so I was living away from Asia for 8 years. And then when I came back, I really want to be involved in regenerative movements. And I went and did my own little travel in Malaysia and Thailand, visiting different eco-villages. And so I got to know some of the folks who's on the ground doing the work, and spend a little bit of time in different communities. But the REGEN-Nations program also allowed me to get connected with, other eco-villages in the entire region that I don't have the resources to actually travel to learn about. And so I'm really grateful, and I really see the value of connecting with other projects in China, in Australia, in Taiwan, like different, in Japan as well, and each of each of them holds the same principles and has a lot of shared values, but are unique in their own way. And it's just a wealth of knowledge, just learning from across the board. And that's also one thing that I feel really, really grateful for. Yeah.
Thank you, Vivian. Yeah, I think that's the thing with holistic design, is the design you come up with is completely unique to your situation or the project situation. If you're designing holistically, that's what happens. That's the whole point of holistic design. So I think we are pretty much complete, and I think this is now a good place to wrap up. So I just wanted to, before we close, thank you all for being here and sharing your time. It's nice to meet you all and to learn a little bit about you. And we look forward to reading your surveys and learning much more about you and how REGEN-Nations can maybe become part of your learning journey. Any questions in the future, you can just email us or contact us on social media. And we wanted to ask you, thinking about the future world that you want to create and what you want to be part of and how you want to spend your time. If you can plant one seed for the future, what would it be? If you could take one thing out of your heart and plant it so it grows. And you can, if you feel you want to talk, then please just raise your hand or unmute yourself and share. Or if you're feeling you prefer to write it, you can pop it in the chat. And I can go first. I think the seed I would like to plant is, I would like to plant the seed of personal empowerment, that people are able to do something. You have 100% control, or maybe 99% control over your own life. You have 100% control over your mind and your heart. And no matter what your circumstances or where you are on the planet, there's always a choice you can make, and to let yourself see the choice. You know, that was a big change in my life. So that's what I would plant. So Hugh says the seed of self-trust. Good seed, Hugh. Eve, gratefulness. Eddie T, seed of gratitude, love and compassion. Marty shares planetary awareness. Yeah. Vivian, seed of care and awareness. That's beautiful. Ken, mindfulness and heart-to-heart connection. Yeah. See what a lovely group of people we are. Okay, everybody. I think we're going to close there. Ken, do we have anything to close with?
Well, there's this sharing from Sarah that I would love to share to close this session with. Well, Sarah, you have met through her recording earlier. She was gonna join us today, but she's now in the UK and she had some health problem, just started yesterday, so she couldn't be here in person. I would love to share with you the full recording that she created after this call. So I will do that, upload, and then send to everyone. But we had a preparation call before this, and in that call, she used this image of a lighthouse in the Kells, which really moved me, like what we are doing together to cultivate a new future, a new possibility. It's really for her, it's a lighthouse in the chaos. So no matter how sometimes we can be really, we can feel really helpless or sad or angry about what's happening around us, but there's always a choice to see something different and to be a part of something different. And that is really what we want to cultivate in REGEN-Nation. So yeah, we're here and we hope that we'll be joined by many, many people, especially in our region of Oceania and Asia, because we see how many courses are missing here in our region. And also many amazing speakers, practitioners in our region are not being recognized by the mainstream. So we want REGEN-Nation to really break that pattern. Yeah, so let's together join this lighthouse in the chaos. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Natalie, for holding the space. Thanks, Vivian. Thank you, Marty, for your wisdom. It's really such an honor to have you here. Yeah, then I think it's a sweet point for us to say goodbye, and please follow up with us. Let us know your questions, concerns, sharing, anything regarding REGEN-Nation. And yeah, feel free to just open your mic, your video to say goodbye.
Marty, you're muted.
You're still muted, Mari.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
It
you,
was
Aditi. Thank you,
very
everybody.